I'm building my biggest resin project yet, all for a restaurant called the Riverhead Brewhouse located right here on Long Island. I started by cutting out the shape of Long Island out of some 3/4 inch plywood. It's funny because going back and looking at this wood cutout, it doesn't even look that big. I bought a sheet of melamine to use as the mold for the resin, and this thing was freaking ginormous. It was like 8 feet by 3.5 feet, and it took up the entire basement for like a month. My dad was pissed. I used this latex cork stuff to seal everything so none of the resin leaked out. I used so much resin for this project. I spent over $600 on resin alone and used just over 5 gallons. I'm mixing it here first before adding the blue pigment because I want to make sure there's no problems with curing later on. This is my biggest resin pour ever, and I was shitting my pants because if anything leaked, I was screwed. I'm pretty silly because I forgot to level it before pouring, so I spent like an hour just trying to throw anything I could find underneath and try to level it out. But it was so big that it was warping, and I could never get it quite right. I gave it a couple days to cure, and when I came back down, it was nice and rock solid. I was ready to take the mold off. Alright, I had a feeling this would happen. I did a poor job leveling it. This isn't the end of the world. I can just cut it from here and just make it a little shorter. It'll be fine. Well, frame's gonna go on this part anyway, so it's not the end of the world, but I just hope it doesn't crack more. It came out of the mold so much smoother than I thought, and I was excited to move forward. After working in the sun for a couple hours trying to sand it down, I realized I might have made a huge mistake. The sun was just beating down on my resin project, and it was so hot out that this happened. I quick ran to grab a tent to try to cool it down and then threw it on the ground to try to flatten it back out again. While I was painting it, it was so soft that my knees were leaving indents in the resin. I realized that the grass wasn't perfectly flat and the resin started to harden again, so I had to quick get it inside and throw some weight on it to flatten it back out. After a couple hours, it cooled down and fully hardened again, and I was able to relax and get back to painting. It's always super cool to see something slowly come to life right before your eyes. I get a little bit of anxiety before starting projects because I have no idea how it's going to come out, especially when the work is for someone else, because I want it to be the best thing it can be and I want them to love it. But there's always a threshold that I pass whenever I'm working on something where I'm like, okay, now I can see where it's going. This is going to look sick. And it's super fun to paint these Long Island maps because I always learn a little bit more about Long Island's geography. I use Google Maps and just painted as many towns as I could possibly fit on here. All of these red lines that I'm putting in here are meant to represent the Long Island Railroad. I wanted to do some main highways in another color, but I didn't want it to look too busy. My dad helped me build this giant frame using 4x4s. I put this dark espresso colored stain on it, which made the wood look beautiful. You could really see all the knots and grain in there. I flipped the frame back over and did a bead of that latex caulk again. Then I had some help flipping the map over and laying it into the frame.
On the map, yeah, just so that's it. Just so it doesn't belly out. Perfect. You're right. I'll say you for the end. Yeah.
I rubbed in this beeswax on the back of the resin to clear up some of the cloudiness. When I lined the outside with LEDs later on, I wanted to make sure as much light shined through as possible. We braced the back with these pieces of wood just to keep the resin in place for now, because it was kind of warping the frame a little bit.
Now you're gonna rust it. Yep.
And when we finally did flip it back over after putting it in the frame, you could really see how much it was coming together.
I can't even get it all in frame, it's so big.
It was finally time for the last resin pour. I used another gallon just to pour over the top of the already finished piece. This is going to help fill in all the scratches that the sanding caused on the resin. It's going to help bond the map to the frame, and it's also going to give it that final glass gloss-like finish. I was definitely way more nervous about this pour than the first pour, because at this point I'd already gone through all the work and spent all this money on making this piece, and I really didn't want to screw anything up. But I have to say, it could not have gone better. Something really cool that was unintentional. I had a hard time sanding the wood down to get it perfectly flat with the resin, so it ended up having this like 3D look.
Alright, so the piece is finally fully finished. I just finished lining the whole back with the LEDs, and I'm going to plug it in for the first time. Take a look. Super crazy looking. Wow.
Seeing this thing lit up and finished was actually kind of surreal. I love all the blue swirls in the resin, and the way that the light reflects off of them just makes it even cooler. The final part of this journey was transporting it over to the Riverhead Brewhouse so they can hang it up for the world to see.
Got it all wrapped up, nice and tight.
Overall, I was super happy with the way this came out. I was just in disbelief. I just couldn't even believe that I made something like this. I didn't even know I had the skills to do something this friggin' amazing. Cameras do it no justice. The thing looks amazing in person. If you live on Long Island and you live anywhere near Riverhead, I would highly recommend going to the Riverhead Brewhouse to check this thing out for yourself. You can also check out the other 2 murals that I just did for them, and check out my other video documenting that. So that's all. Hope you liked the video, hope you liked the art. Thanks for watching.